Hey there, fellow wanderers. Picture this: a still, ink-black night stretched across the medieval countryside. The only sounds are the hush of the wind through bare branches and the occasional distant howl of some unseen predator prowling through its own dark tail. The air is razor-sharp, colder than a drawn blade. Beneath your boots, the earth is wet-soaked with the breath of the living and the dead alike. And then it appears, a silhouette on the horizon, stark and solitary, a medieval watchtower. You approach. The air grows thick with the scent of wet stone and lichen, the architecture unforgiving, designed for function, not comfort. This isn't a stage for romance or gallantry. This is the architecture of dread, meant to keep watch, to endure, to survive the unknown. You feel eyes may be yours, maybe the towers trained on the dark hills beyond. A foghorn hum seems to echo from nowhere, calling you to climb, to see what waits in the shadows. This isn't legend. This is history, cold, sleepless, and terrifying. So, before we dive deeper, I ask only this. If this kind of raw, unvarnished truth speaks to you, click like, hit subscribe, and leave a trace of yourself in the comments. Tell me your city, your time, your state of mind. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan blend with the wind of centuries past. Let's begin. And remember, in medieval times, even survival was a luxury. Drawing up closer to the towering edifice, you notice its rough-hewn stones, each one a story in itself, stacked precariously toward the starlit sky. A narrow window offers the only apparent glimpse into the world. Within, a faint flicker dances from within, teasing the promise of warmth and light. Yet, as you enter, the reality is far from inviting. The scent of smoke mingles with the earthy aroma you've already encountered, building a tapestry of scents that hint at meals past and meager feasts shared with ghosts. The air carries a hint of sweat, musty with the memory of those before you, these unfortunate souls who stand watch night after endless night. As the wooden door creaks shut behind you, you feel the temperature inside the tower is a touch degree warmer than the external chill, but still pinned by drafts that whistle through hidden cracks. The flickering torchlight plays with your vision, casting long, shadowy spectres that seem to follow your every move. Instinctively, you shiver, drawing your cloak tighter around your body, your breath visible as it escapes your lips in fragile wisps. It's a place where time seems frozen, yet fleeting, with nothing but the relentless tick of an unseen clock that marks not hours but moments of silent endurance. You settle in, realizing the structure is no castle of grandeur, but rather a functional shell, unyielding in its purpose. A simple wooden stool, polished by countless weary bodies who sat before you, awaits as your resting place. Listen closely, and you might hear the whispers of history woven into the very fabric of this meager fortress. In an attempt to warm your hands, you rub them together, feeling the roughness of chapped skin, reminiscent of parchment left out in a biting draught. Medieval skincare, the closest spa treatments, would be concoctions of herbs, lard, and perhaps, if you're lucky, some beeswax. Not quite the luxury we know today, like avocado masks or cucumber slices gently easing tired eyes. As the minutes stretch into hours, the challenges of surviving a night here slowly reveal themselves, like slowly peeling back the layers of an onion to find its bitter heart. It strikes you like one of those medieval writers' irony-induced moral lessons. This spot is less a sanctuary and more a bastion of relentless vigilance. Each rumble of the earth from below it could be animals or even distant footsteps. Each rises like a warning, unheeded by all but those who keep watch. Yet, bravery demands such blind eyes to scan horizons, as the innocuous may mask the beginnings of danger, stories of which would become legendary ballads. But don't worry. We're just at the beginning of this long watch. Many challenges await, brimming with historical insights and quirky medieval quirks that might raise an eyebrow or two. Like the time Europeans thought bathing might lead to the spread of disease, a perspective so opposite to our hand-sanitizing obsessions today. Historians still argue whether these watchtowers were more about deterring invaders or simple status symbols. Look at us, they seem to say, perched on the fringes of civilization, stoically defying the darkness. And here you are, the dust of ages settling around you, as the history of it all dances with you in silence. But keep your wits about you, as we shall delve deeper into this night, exploring every crevice and cranny of this lonely stone destination. The Watchtower will reveal itself, bit by bit, shadow by shadow. Expect the unexpected. Duck beneath low beams, let your eyes adjust to the gloom, and together, let us breathe life into this ancient stone guardian, one word, one step at a time. Life within the medieval Watchtower unfolds as a complex tapestry of routine, vigilance, and subtle survival. As you settle in, the mingling sounds around you become an intimate backdrop to your night. A soft murmur of activity echoes from the floors below, punctuated by the distant clatter of a bucket being set down, the faint rustle of a page being turned, or a slight cough attempting to break the heavy silence. The walls, rough and unwelcoming, serve not only as shelter but also as a canvas upon which shadows play. Each nook and cranny tells tales of those who have dwelt here through endless nights, keeping their silent vigil. Stone floors, cold and unyielding, do little to comfort feet weary from the ascent. Your every step catches in the muted reverberation of footsteps past, echoing a timeline where guardians once stood fast against whatever threatened from the beyond. The tower, though modest in stature, encloses an unpretentious living space. Narrow bunks line the walls, roughly carved from wood, no longer green, with straw mattresses offering scant relief from the hard surfaces. The itch of the straw scratches lightly at your skin, a reminder that comfort here is elusive, small luxuries relegated to the wealth of noble estates, or perhaps a traveller's fanciful dream. Inhabitants occupy their time with a minimal number of possessions: carved wooden bowls and clay mugs, a few well-thumbed parchments that speak of simpler tales and accounts, and personal tokens of protection or luck. The air, while suffused with an uninterrupted flow of chilly draughts, is dominated by the rich smell of burning tallow candles. These basic sources of light and warmth also unfurl a pungent aroma, a curiosity of age-old practicality preferred over beeswax or the sweetness of modern soy. Illuminate the room with these wavering lights, and it feels like standing at the edge of history, where every sputter of the flame is a whispered promise of safety. Then, amid the daily functions of living within these walls, one hears the rhythmic grind of the wind. Any listener aware of its rhyme might interpret it as a reminder: nature is the ultimate keeper of time, indifferent and eternal. It hums its chilling lullaby, urging all to keep watch. In moments alone, the droning becomes a symphonic expression of the night, sometimes fierce, sometimes gentle, but ever present like your own breath in the still of the night. Life here is not all about the external. Inwardly, one's thoughts cycle through instinctive caution, interspersed by flights of fancy, a wondrous gift of humanity, even in medieval constraint. As thoughts wander, imagine the tower in another time, a pop culture image of mind. The royal commotion of a busy castle hearkening to distant battles, courtiers clacking polished shoes against marbled floors, jesters in vibrant attire, bringing laughter beneath golden chandeliers. The tower may be lesser, but it stands prominently in the tales of yore, encouraging youthful imaginations to wander despite shadowy reality. Nightfall paints responsibility upon the watchmen, their purpose singular, their actions deliberate. The world beckons as it sprawls beyond those ramparts, and keeping an eye on the surroundings is paramount. Every visitor to the tower becomes its protector, no matter the hours they'd prefer to be sleeping soundly at home with visions of medieval feasts and festivities swirling through their minds. Descend even deeper into the essence of tower life, and you'll sense the rituals embedded in watch duty. Tasks completed habitually become a part of the stone tapestry, stoking the hearth, trimming the wicks, rotating shifts between the narrow, winding stairs, all clocked in their paces by the sun or lack thereof. A seemingly insubstantial tower dinner is composed of leftover oats or a simple broth, and perhaps a hard-earned sip of preserved ale or the infrequent nibble on cheese. Let not your modern gourmand senses despair. These post-prandial rituals ground the watch within moments of camaraderie, whether shared in geniality or born in silence. And indeed, camaraderie is a necessity. Sharing this space with others means relying on one another for rites of safety and company. Yet too often, small misunderstandings might brew like a storm, threatening to overtake the plain. You have not yet felt the subtle weight of spending long stretches with limited company. A simple myth, perhaps inspired by the monotony of nights, such as these, emerges that a watchman's stubborn knee ache could be remedied by leeks tied underfoot before dawn. As the hours wax and wane solemnly, your senses heighten and awareness shifts between awareness and longing for rest. Each sound might be more pronounced as sleep's subtle lull vies silently with the tasks at hand. A crackling log, a scraping chair, or a fox piercing the night with a wailing call, these all hold their secrets in this eternal vigil. The tower's story is yours to uncover, built brick by enduring brick. Its quiet persistence is the unerring melody of life, echoing throughout an ancient era. Join countless souls who've whispered tales from these walls. Within these stark confines, stories unfold. Embrace the tower as it was embraced by predecessors, a living chronicle, a tangible artifact of time spanning generations and history. The night remains young, and this world, your nocturnal expedition and guide. Each step we take together promises strange delights and insights, ever to be revealed in the stone's shadow, waiting to emerge like the light of a new dawn. As the deep night drapes its cloak around you in the Watchtower, isolation settles in as an uninvited, yet unavoidable companion. The solitude is palpable, coursing through the very stones that surround you, whispering tales of those who stood guard before you. The silence is not just an absence of sound, but a living presence, thick and enveloping, pressing against your senses as if the weight of centuries bore down upon your shoulders. In this corner of the world, you are alone with your thoughts, a solitary sentinel tasked with vigilance against the unknown. While others may dream in cottage warmth nearby, you linger between the world of wakefulness and the cusp of slumber, wrestling with suspicions and shadows that dart at the corners of your vision. In solitude, every shadow becomes sharper, every creak of the timber more pronounced, until each sound draws you back to the moment, anchoring you against the encroaching tide of fatigue. The notion of isolation extends beyond the physical. It invades the mind and spirit. Hours stretch interminably, measured not by clocks, which are unfamiliar luxuries, but by the slow creep of stars overhead or the relentless trickle of wax down a candle's spine. Silence, once a fleeting comfort, grows to be a deafening accompaniment, leaving room for only your breathing, rhythmic yet uneasy. Consider the role of such a lonely outpost, a space where knights of old and common guards alike would have steeled themselves against both internal doubts and external dangers lurking in the obscuring darkness beyond. Recall the joke about the medieval knight constantly sharpening his sword, all because he feared it might fall apart during combat. Imagine standing, shifting uneasily, each moment of this vigil resonating with similar anxiety, and humour perhaps breaking that tension in scant relief. Somewhere, you think a more experienced watcher might jest, "Great company you've got tonight." But here, jesting conversations fall into the void of silence, echoed back by the emptiness. The creeping hours allow the imagination to dance far afield. What if the rustle of branches outside foretells ancient invaders with silent weapons ready to strike? Imagine past watchkeepers clutching swords, their dormant steel glinting under moonlight, ready, or perhaps merely comforting in their steadfast presence. Historians still argue whether these moments of vigil were primarily to fend off real threats, or mere psychological exercises in resilience and readiness. Regardless of intention, the recollection of this singular solitude echoes deeply in time's memory, a beacon of the need for preparedness amidst uncertainties. At times, the mind compensates for companions of flesh and blood. You might find yourself addressing the shadows with imagined dialogues, weaving stories from what might just be the wind's playful dalliance with leaves. The very stones that form your sanctuary might seem to answer in their static whisper, ancient and knowing. You consider the myths of the wood spirits, or fey creatures whose realms touch the periphery of human vision. Early folklore tied to lonely towers might mingle with logical explanations, and in some manner perhaps provide solace against utter seclusion. No longer tightly bound to formality, your thoughts unfurl, weaving through the ages, touching histories yet unwritten. They brush against the ethereal sword in stone tales, or rest gently upon the rugged veracity of medieval survival against all odds. This outcome, you muse, may have been born from these nights' unspoken friendships, intangible rivalries, and even from unrecorded misunderstandings. Within the quiet, the tower is a library. All idle noises and idle thoughts are pages to turn, ripe for discoveries. You become the protagonist in medieval scenarios played out countless times. Each night is a new chapter, with villains dressed as silence and heroes cloaked in humble woolen garb and resolve. Your introspection sprouts from these depths, feeding upon an intangible character developed from necessity rather than choice, a reminiscence of affairs led by solitude's hand. Time continues to slip through your fingers, melded and indistinct. Each further stroke of the heavens brings the dawn closer, though its warmth is not yet felt against your cold skin. Peer out through the pockets of darkness and attempt to reconcile the watch with purpose yet uncaptured. Could it be that this solitude prepares the watchkeeper for when presence is, at last, required? Or does the night unravel you, making ambiguous the ties of history and duty? The irony of companionship is not lost. It remains the thread from which this tapestry of experience is woven. Your place here, your silent duty shared through an invisible line of guardians, compels introspection, for in solitude one better confronts one's own heart. And upon the precipice of this night, your role steadfast credences the night's consideration, a testament to perseverance against the time's ephemeral nature, and, strangely, its eternal whisper. The stars glint above, indifferent, silent witnesses to your solitude. As the dawn slowly breaches the horizon, you realize this languid journey through night and isolation is both enduring and transient, each cycle poised at the margin of constant renewal and exhausted constancy. With this, you become part of the ongoing story, another voice in the Watchtower's long lineage, subsumed in the solitude that shapes your very place in history's slow, unfurling tale. The cold within the medieval Watchtower is a presence unto itself, a formidable foe that tests your resilience against its relentless draw. Cold wraps itself around you with icy tendrils, seeping through your clothing and biting at any uncovered skin. This chill isn't just present, it lords over the tower like a spectral warden, ensuring that comfort is a fleeting memory of warmer days long past. The unyielding stones hold the memory of winter within their very essence, offering no reprieve. They seem to breathe with the icy exhalation of the night. The wind is a constant companion, howling through the thin crevices and playing haunting tunes at the expense of those who break the night watcher's silence. It's a raw, biting cold that seeps into the very marrow of your bones, insisting on its omnipresence with every gust that creeps through the defences of the watchtower at large. Your medieval garments made of rough wool, crude leather, or perhaps threadbare linen are poor shields against this onslaught. Imagine cocooning yourself in layers crafted more by necessity than design, the clothing of your era little more than an assemblage of what will pass the time against harsher settings. A modern explorer might raise a brow at your attempts at warmth, akin to bringing an umbrella when battling a tempest. A joke bandied about among watchkeepers would be, "The only thing warmer than this cloak is a candle's glow." Feeling the cold settle more deeply into your frame, you consider the medieval remedies at hand. You might scoop a hefty stone from the fire's embers to warm your bed later, a practice shared from tales of old, and perhaps from the memories of previous watchmen's stories too. Or maybe you consider the concept of hot water bottles that never evolve beyond a ceramic container filled with tepid liquid and wrapped in wool cloth. The ingenuity they likely once spoke of fails to thaw your fingers as quickly as you'd wish. Your fingers numb, you put every effort into warding off the gnawing frost. Rubbing your hands together generates a faint warmth, while a hot breath might do something to shake the frostbite tingling at your extremities. Historians still argue whether the excruciating chill of the medieval night was accepted with stoic endurance or cursed in soft undertones, metaphors perhaps as frozen as the breath that escapes your lips in ghostly plumes. The air, unarguably unforgiving, leaves icicles at the corners of your window in winter months and a sludge-induced dampness that pervades all other seasons. It is a fact that the chill could overrun a watchtower, more effective than any lurking foe attempting entrance. It becomes a tactic to prevent drowsiness, the biting air from the pervasive elements, another watch partner through the starlit gloom. For those gifted with a whimsical imagination, the breath of winter may even bear semblances of arcane legends, ancient dragons' remnants reduced to mere whispers against the sky, or elusive spirits brushing your skin with their ghostly tendrils. Such dreams flutter along your subconscious, their ethereal paths drawn by the night as both a guardian and an oppressive collaborator. You imagine the possibility of drawing warmth from simple camaraderie, the closeness of others, thawing the frozen air between layered cloaks and shared stories. But the lonely vigil persists. The communal blaze of friendship is one woven through history's unseen dialogue, scarce warmth when witnessed through your own solitude. The smith, a dweller of the village below, might pass this way occasionally, checking on the metal rigs redundantly struck through the walls, or perhaps come to address the failing integrity of the iron hinges clinging to the ancient door. Yet even he knows the cold is indomitable, invincible, a part of life that these stones shelter and echo in their own understanding. Hold fast against this chill, as tales of the weary traveller are born from the embers, earning their truth through endurance. Despite all measures, despite your indelible spirit, the cold claims everything, marking time not unlike winter leaving its prints in frost across a glass pane. Layers of clothing, though as ample as the availability of fabric allows, are insufficient, a reality that you contend with as you draw them more tightly around chilled shoulders. As the hour grows later, and the promise of dawn gathers pace on the fringes of the horizon, the walls take on a different texture. They seem almost to soften and breathe more easily in the dim light. Gradually, the initial harshness of cold yields to this slow and vital dawn. A promise of warmth lingers there, hazy on the horizon, its gentle anticipation, a beacon more than grand fares or thoughtful gestures. Unlike the suddenness of nightfall, the shift towards dawn brings with it whispers of warmth, a balm that heals where its harsh companion wounds. This enduring chill is a companion you neither choose nor defy but learn to live with. It hones your persistence, each shiver a conversation amongst those who've stood as silent sentinels before you, always pushing patiently toward the renewal of light. The night has taught its lesson, and as the world turns, the first fingers of sunlight stretch across the tower's stone face, a welcome beginning to an ending once promised by darkness. As night deepens over your watchtower post, you become acutely aware of your clothing, or rather, how wholly inadequate it is against the enveloping chill. Medieval attire stands as a testament to utilitarian fashion, every thread woven for a purpose beyond decoration, a stark contrast to the wardrobe luxuries of our modern era. Beneath your feet, the stone remains cold and unfriendly, and above, the rafters rattle with the wind like complaints in an ancient tongue. The garments you wear are basic but necessary, a tunic perhaps, stitched by expert hands driven by practicality and not by flair. It drapes loosely over you, accompanied by a hooded cloak meant to hold the warmth your body fights valiantly to produce. It's far from the snuggle of fleece or the downy embrace of a modern jacket. This medieval, fitted solution is instead how history lets you cling on to warmth by whatever means available. What humour there is to be found here is both dry and historic, the kind of jest shared with sympathetic spirits from the past. Dress like a knight, freeze like a peasant. You've heard the stories, how those trapped on towers like this would swear allegiance to the warmth of the next hearth they encountered upon their descent. Unadorned and unforgiving, your clothing reflects the bannerman's resolve rather than the nobleman's fanciful indulgence. One can only imagine the juxtaposition silken indulgence, wandering castle halls, versus the rough-spun garb standing diligent against the elements atop a stone tower. Your cloak, once vibrant perhaps, now seems muted, dulled by endless nights filled with rain, sleet, and snow, a testament to perseverance more than fashion. Should the wind shift just right, let's indulge in a minor. Quirky aside, were you to raise the hem of your garment in exasperation, it might even rise to the occasion, a flutter that speaks volumes both to impending modesty and missed opportunity. But we digress. This would hardly be such a fine joke to our medieval peers. The aim is simple: layer for warmth, sacrifice flexibility, and above all, remember that style is secondary to function. Wool remains the stalwart hero, sourced from sturdy sheep grazing firm footholds of the countryside, its fibers unfurl warmth like a medieval miracle. There's the heavy linen shirt, worn underneath, no finery nor elegance to woo an audience, but enough to fend off the biting gusts, sneaking through thread and sinew alike. Legwear is an afterthought, perhaps stitched of coarse wool or leather strung with crude laces. They cling tight, less for visual effect but more to insulate, warming you unceremoniously as might a hearth's errant embers. Amidst the frigid air, the softness of down feathers or thermal lining exists only as idyllic dreams and old wives' tales. Instead, humility is sewn into every stitch, unwavering even against those who imagine themselves masters of style. Historians still argue the effectiveness and humility of such attire. Is it an evolved art, perfected through time's trials, or a static baseline, unchallenged by historical shifts? Such mysteries indulge your thoughts as you endure the long, stoic watch. Your boots, worn thin, weathered by the footfalls of time, provide equally uncompromising utility. No foamy sole or cushioned insole defends against the relent of the stone beneath, but they carry you through as sentinels at the ready. It's a symbiotic relationship of leather and human endurance, each step a nod to the antique march faced by generation after generation. Occasionally, you might tap your foot against the tower's embrace, a brief, rhythmic reminder that warmth is at least a faithful companion of movement. The reality, however humorous or stark, piles upon your awareness a reflection of the simplicity that necessity coaxes into visibility. These clothes, as they hang upon you, act less as a primary defense than as a reminder that nature's elements often wield the final say. Surprise lurks around each gust, convinced the persistent ache is a companion more than occupational hazard, a sidekick, if you will, patrolling the midnight keep. Curiously ponder the irony such clothing attire heralds from a time when progress stood unpolluted by synthetic fibers and advanced fabrics. Yet here lies its charm, a resolute representation, marked by stubborn practicality, stitching you into history with every spirited shiver. For, after all, the human spirit thrives as much on versatility as the material's resilience, enduring challenges with a wry smile and nod to the royal cloak closet left blissfully untouched. As the night elongates, the cascade of fabrics encasing you dangles loosely, the only tangible assurance against winter's unrelenting claim. Each fold and hem serves as both protector and archivist, etching tonight's conditions through their patches and weathered frays. And through this watch, as you find steadfast footing against a world turned coolly indifferent, your attire remains a constant reminder that warmth, as with history, is acquired over time, stitch by precious stitch. As the night stretches on in the medieval Watchtower, your stomach begins to groan its own kind of protest, a bodily reminder of the enduring discomfort of sparse provisions. Within these stone walls, meals are less for enjoyment and more for mere survival, an echo of the stringency that permeates life in this wind-battered sanctuary. The luxury of lavish feasts remains a distant dream, an occasional anecdote told by seasoned men-at-arms who served under nobler masters. You glance around, noting the handful of modest supplies tucked away in crude wooden shelves recessed into the walls. The selection is meager, driven by the necessity to keep items with staying power, more an exercise in utilitarian endurance than gustatory delight. Perhaps there lies a loaf of bread, its crust hardened to a weapon-like consistency by days or even weeks of gradual staling. Accompanying this pitiful sampling is a pot clinking with the remnants of a stew, vegetables and meats, all blended into a nondescript sustenance, the liquid showing a watery resolve more reminiscent of tinted broth than any memory of flavor. Dreaming of modern packaged foods injected with spices and preservatives in vivid packaging, your modern sensibilities balk at the monotony. But here, the reality is a crude fare, a mixture concocted by the simplicity of realism, an existence delineated by sustenance rather than indulgence. The act of eating becomes a ritual, interlaced with an understanding. This suffices. It's a concept seasoned with austerity that generations past have accepted with stoic resignation. It's enough to stave off hunger, but could barely satisfy any longing for a flavorful indulgence like imagining the feast Henry VIII might engorge upon, perched on rich textures of roasted meats, pies, and tawny flagons of ale. The stone tower does not lend itself to grand culinary experiments, more an experiment in whatever the last scribbles left lists, perhaps read by candlelight's fickle flicker. Ask anyone stationed here, and if their stomach weren't too involved in its own commentary, they might joke, medieval cuisine proof that necessity is the mother of experimentation, if not invention. Food becomes a secondary nature, a background hum beneath the forefront of your vigil. Unlike today's swirl of marketing-driven diets, medieval fare thrives on what exists. The crops or beasts tended and finished by local hands. With emphasis on preservation, bits of salted meat find their place near dangling ropes of onions or hanging grids labelled with drying herbs. Yet with some luck, or perhaps a trade bolstered by esteem, a rogue taste of spice might find its way near your palate, an exotic dance across otherwise muted flavours. With your dinner comes perhaps a modest beaker of ale, or some cider born from nearby orchards. Unlike modern day's carbonated beverages or high-spirited concoctions, these provide not only liquid nourishment, but calories to fuel the long hours of wakefulness yet to proceed. The drink offers faint comfort, perhaps its simple recipe lost somewhere between this century's embrace and the next. But while historians still argue whether everyday medieval folks always enjoyed good ale or simple barley water instead, it's an archetype for legacies woven as common as it can be rare. The Watchtower's dietary routine is humbly predictable. It provides sustenance without pretension. It demands the shedding of any illusion of culinary adventure. This place, after all, was never about indulgence, but about enduring survival, loomed above all else. Each morsel consumed feels not just functional but also a chapter within a knight's tale, or a screenwriter's draft reluctantly left to dust. Amid the muted sounds of the hearth and quiet clattering of clay mugs against stone tables, camaraderie might be nurtured, coalescing within the warmth of mealtime or its declinations. But here, in your cold vigil, you instead confront silence. And silence becomes its own ingredient, the unseen influence upon this sympathetic soup of existence. Mundane, as it might seem, a single morsel can carry a simple charm, meting out of scarcity within abundance of timelessness, briefly and invisibly enriching the selective dusts of memory. A scarcity of bounty lends itself to scavenging habits turned artful. Look around, and invention marries resourcefulness. Wooden spools boast burgeoning lines of dried fruit, like ornate relics among sour bites of dried fish. Salt provides preservation a necessity as spices would be a taste of wealth rather than culinary choice, though through this blockade of sparse spread, the hidden humours disclose themselves, oft with subtle inclines of potent bartering wisdom. It's a tacit language, shared across empty bowls and weathered chests, belonging to the tapestry of necessitous taste. Despite the staleness and predictability, a warmth emerges from this meal, less fragrant, but no less real, infusing the air with nostalgia's light touches. Whether imagined or known, that meal taken on a medieval watchtower somewhere from times before these pioneering flavors stand, like evergreen sentinels, keeping watch against the combined chill from both outdoors and within the soul's longing lineage. And so you eat what you have, acknowledging the continuity in stone and star and simple fare, standing resilient against the vast expanse of night. This watch continues, layered by hours' inevitable turns, nourished by practicality and reflections on yet remembered feasts of promises past. As the night draws on in the medieval watchtower, the lack of sanitation becomes an unavoidable truth, a testament to the times that shaped and constrained such elements of daily life. The echo of your footsteps on stone is joined by the faint, pungent scent of unwashed bodies, mingling with the tang of tallow candles, a constant reminder of the conditions that define this bygone era. The tower does not cater to comfort by modern standards. Rather, it reflects a world where cleanliness is a luxury often unattainable for those standing vigil against the night. The simplicity of your daily routine is immediately evident. A small wooden basin with a jagged edge sits in the corner, brimming with tepid water that seems more suitable for washing dust from stone than cleansing skin. Any semblance of personal hygiene is a trial of perseverance, perhaps a splash of captured rainfall, or at best, melted snow taken from the unforgiving elements. So far from the idealized baths found in modern homes, where fragrant soaps and gentle waters provide solace away from this gritty reality. Jokes about medieval hygiene might float around in jest even today, as if evoking the ghost of a scribe quietly scribbling lore onto parchment. Imagine someone humorously claiming, "You can always tell who's been on night duty by nose rather than sight." Indeed, there exists a particular camaraderie born of shared experience in these conditions, forged in the unchanging confines of these ancient walls. The concept of sanitation requires ingenuity and adaptation. Meagre provisions are all that stand between watchmen and the relentless grip of grime. With limited soap, you resort to using concoctions of ashes, water, and sometimes herbs to ward off the residue of laborious watch. Clothing is scrubbed in much the same manner, its fabric bearing the mark of each rinse, the face of endurance rather than the scent of fresh linen. The availability of perfume or oils remains the preserve for those far removed from these grounded halls. In this small community, the art of concealment becomes survival. Layers of wool and leather strive to hide what cannot be otherwise remedied, the combination enough to buffer the coolness yet lacking intangible relief from the growing saturation. It's as though each garment absorbs the night's whisperings, a repository of stories and forgotten moments accumulated against the timeless canvas of evergreen echoes. Turning away from the scant washing corner, your thoughts may wander toward the plant lore whispered among the watchmen. From lavender to rosemary, traditional remedies promise. Respite these are known to dance in delicate sachets tucked beneath simple pouches. Such practices were natural fighters against both malevolent spirits and invasive stenches alike, scented diversions amidst pragmatic simplicity. Historians still debate the extent to which sanitation impacted life within these towers. Was it a genuine matter of survival, or merely a stitch within the broader tapestry of medieval life? Regardless, here on these stone battlements, you make do, guided by necessity's compass. The tower itself bears silent witness to countless lives before yours, touched by the same challenges of hygiene and circumstance. Of course, there are practical considerations entwined with necessity like the latrine. Often a simple chute or chamber pot is the answer here, stowed discreetly away, a quiet refuge from prying eyes and the scrutiny of the moon's illuminating gaze. The reality of managing waste involves nothing more than instinctive rituals seasoned with age, preserved through whispers, each one marked by enduring necessities carved along stone corridors. In times such as these, the concept of sanitation carries unique perceptions. It earns its place not for comfort, but survival, providing daily choices wrapped in unyielding practicality. Indeed, a modern-day visitor to this storied watch might balk at the raw honesty of such living conditions, akin to a reluctant tour through centuries of staunch realism. One must wonder if fortune-tellers of that era perceived future paradigms of cleanliness and space, or would they dismiss them as fanciful dreams more fit for fairy tales? Yet through the grime and gloom, you find hints of resilience among the tower's ancient stones. The essays these remnants pencil out, bright and haunting as stars in their own right, spin a tale not just about hardship, but of adaptation. Such a story is engraved upon the very walls that now hold you, fortiled narrative, coalescing into a nuanced comprehension, whole and deep as starlit shadows pool beneath each chamber and echo fierce upon unbroken ground. As the night stretches out and dawn begins its gentle encroach, the reality of medieval living becomes intertwined with a deeper recognition. Survival leaned into invention long before it married convenience. The vigilance of its guardians' grime, covered yet tenaciously steadfast, continues unnoted, their histories only partially marked by palpable trails of humanity through the unleavable spaces of time. In this way, you keep your vigil. Armored partially with stories unearthed from yesterday's steadfast rust, you stand companioned by both invented and inherited defense, reminders embedded into routine. The unspoken narratives remain a testament to innovation, the balance sheet upon which history rests and watches. As such, they ensure your presence, here and now, is both shimmer and shadow in equal measure. In the heart of the medieval night, the Watchtower becomes not just a vessel for those who guard it, but a stage for a performance of light and shadow. Your eyes strain in the faint glow of torches and the glimmer of moonlight that daringly sneaks through the narrow slits cut into the tower's stony visage. Lighting, in this era, is more an art than an exact science, a testament to the ingenuity and practicality that defined times past. Flickering torches entwine their light with an atmosphere dominated by shadows that cling to corners like loyal hounds. Each touch of flame upon a wall sends echoes of movement across your vision, causing the tower to dance with ghostly figures crafted in silhouette, playing tricks upon weary eyes. The light emitted is meager, unsubstantial by today's standards, yet resilient in its duty to ward off the dark, dulling the night's ominous caress with its muted warmth. The touch of tallow candles graces the air with their unique signature, an aroma reminiscent of ancient rituals, secrets kept in their glow and warmth, a contrast to the jet-black embrace of shadows cast by their flames. In a world without the luxury of electricity, such light serves as both guardian and guide through the unyielding darkness, promising modest reassurance against the dominant night. This trust in flame, however, comes with its burden, the eternal balance between light and caution. With each flame lit comes the chance for peril. A rogue spark might whisper through time, showing its potential for disaster. Imagine a watchman's jest murmured below. Hope the fire likes its current dwelling, else it might fancy our entire tower. The preparation of lighting devices requires preparation and frugality. Torches are torched with smoke and oiled with fat or resin, ensuring the limited combustion materials burn long and greedily. It requires skill, this act of moderation. Each night's vigil claims its tithe in soot, whispered shadows. A single torch can claim the night until the morning bloom along the eastern sky, its starkness unchallenged by candles, which flicker in protest when wind teases its fragile height. The challenge of fighting darkness doesn't stop with ensuring light. It bleeds into selecting the torch's positioning, a strategic consideration as critical as deploying a battalion against night's armies. A mislaid lantern can leave the heart exposed, susceptible to the invasion of shadows that might clutch at your senses unbidden. Historians still argue over the methods used to foster the best flame, whether it was oil lamps made sacred by their rarity or the simple sputtering of a charcoal ember's dance. The methods held no single rule but varied instead by region, era, and need. Here, in these watchtower confines, the flame is both a refuge and a guardian cradled within cupped hands, illuminating faces touched by worry or contemplation. Could you imagine, perhaps, how much easier it might be with the stroke of a switch, a button press that calls forth light at whim? Yet back here amongst the stone bones of history, innovation sings a muted tune in substitution for convenience. Instead of flicking on a light, you continue to manage past limits, relying on intuition to tread paths drawn in shadow. Alongside this flickering light lies the darker tales. Imagine the eerie afterthoughts of lore stirred from the wick's smoke, a sneaky glance cast towards elongated shadows flowing across stones cold beneath your feet. Such glimmers serve not only to illuminate but to draw lines between the ordinary and the supernatural. Every dart of light might reveal an imagined ghastly face from old myths crouching in the nook of forgotten foundations. You grip your torch handle, aware not only of its slender security, but its reliance. Without it, the shadow's realm prevails, a sentiment sensed even among the creaking boughs, where light could chase away what imagination deploys. In these flickers of warmth, however primitive their dance may seem, cousins to those invented in lineage, still sparking energy within current walls, you find a strange comfort. The tower becomes, for a moment, a point within a galaxy, a constellation of vigils pivoting on eternal watch with light peers from all directions, piercing the fabric of night. As your watch continues, the light, even feeble, connects your existence with ancestors bound by duties shared centuries ago. The balance between brightness and night tells a silent tale on stone, starlit by determination and unbroken by enduring echoes of warming flame, guardians as old as time's kind recess. Your reliance on this glow ingrains itself within the very silence it defends, an unspoken promise of light, promising to reveal the day's breath upon the skyline. Each spark is precious, a harbinger to dawn's kind embrace. Within the flickering universe of the Watchtower, you stand in awe of simple illumination, its meaning transfigured into something far beyond mere shadow's play, a testament to human resilience forged and flickering through time itself. In the quiet recesses of your vigil, perched atop this stoic medieval watchtower, you've likely come to realize that time operates differently here, a fluid entity measured less by ticking hands and more by natural rhythms and keen observation. In a world where sundials and the occasional water clock take the place of wristwatches and digital displays, the passage of time is both organic and elusive, a reminder of how much your existence aligns with nature's relentless cadence. Under the expansive night sky, time feels both suspended and infinite, as if each minute wrapped in shadow might stretch into hours if you let it. You learn to measure time not in minutes or seconds, but in the celestial dance above, tracing the slow movement of constellations across their dark canvas. It's the stars that guide you, ever so gently, charting out the familiar patterns you become intimate with over the course of many long nights. Yet, accurately gauging the time is a challenge here, one met with creativity rather than precision. You may rely instead on moon phases to provide a rough estimate of the night's progress, waning and waxing crescents marking time by their subtle light or conspicuous absence. Thick clouds become pests of timekeeping, blocking celestial signals and leaving you to guess at midnight's realm. Before sundials, folks would often rely on simple observations of shadows cast by elements of landscape, stones aligned with the horizon, each casting its own subtle story upon the earth, or even by relying on anecdotes and oral traditions, such as observing when roosters crow or animals stir. Historians still argue whether the trust placed in such natural horological cues was more accurate than records kept by scribes, spinning parchment tales, anchoring castle life and duty alike. Invariably, keeping time without tools we take for granted today becomes an exercise in deep attention, an immersion into the sensory details around you as the world shifts from dusk to dawn. Listen closely, and you might discern the cadence of nocturnal creatures as they traverse a kingdom they own by night. Perhaps it's the owl's distant call, that wise sentry who calculates its own flight times with intrinsic precision, or the changing rhythms of insect symphonies that serenade the world to sleep. A humorous notion might slip into your mind of inventing a new time measure. Owl's wing or bat's turn, a conceptual clock ticked off by fauna instead of metal gears. Such imaginary remedies whisper against the cold winds, providing you rare amusement amidst contemplating clouds' endless wrestling with horizon. Meanwhile, water clocks serve as a sophisticated luxury, owned by few and revered by those who glimpse their elegance. Drip by noisy drip, they portion hours with continuous inevitability, a poet's device, loose sands connecting as water shapes, the ever-retreating coastline of the past. The irony of this watchtower's own rhythm lies in its duty, ever fixed upon gazing beyond walls' familiarity, its study of the same horizon, which echoes a journey wrought between skybound brilliance and gossamer trails, leaving their traces below. But as the night pushes on, you come to appreciate that time spent yearning for the dawn requires a silent pact, exchanging much anticipated rest for vigilance, a darkness internal and external, wrapped in this historical cloak. You may ponder how knights stood similarly resolute, tilting lance and shield against the yawning depths, their task and tool as endearing as light itself. It's a rhythm that emerges naturally, a weekly heartbeat carved in weathered stone, the beating shared with seekers before, resourceful rhythms charted by ancient instincts mingling with craftsmanship. Here, amidst the dark and starry night, time's salve rests upon your hands like temporal dew, affecting a measure not just as time elapsed, but of character shaped by awareness. As dawn edges handsomely forward, you recognize the harmony in this passage of hours, tracing each arc drawn across night's timeless and contemplative face. The world may seem divided by modernity's endless scrolling hands, but once ensconced within this resolute, ageless watch, you experience the kind illumination of passage, steady as a heartbeat, drawing life forward, despite the borders imposed by humanity's restless slumber. The night clock moves. Torchlight witnesses bare truths hidden from intemperate view, a silent elegance, danced by shadow's partner, swaying beneath the pendulum, clinging yet forgiving upon slate's eternal rest. As you find time marked not just on stone, but sewed in sequence within the heart, you remember that the light will finally shatter darkness, allowing you to wander well beyond wayward moments, drawn only to murmur breathless tales, broken down by ghostly movements. It is as inevitable as sunrise, and you are its beholder, the truths crafted within stars' archetype, luminous letters bowstringing sinew, this narrative penned by night with time as its woven scribe. Through forward glances pounding solutions from the very heart of history, you embrace the measure of hours enlivened by the light grasped, promised with tender vigilance under Watchtower's unyielding, vigilant stone embrace. As the Watchtower's tedious hours advance toward morning, the challenges of vigilance and an unyielding boredom converge. This silent struggle is far from the thrilling adventure of storybooks. Instead, it blossoms into a slow, creeping duel with one's own patience and endurance. Throughout this relentless vigil, boredom wraps itself around your thoughts like an old, heavy cloak, a companion less evasive than the promises of first light. Under the immensity of the sky, your gaze sweeps routinely over the landscapes beyond the tower. The horizon remains steadfast as the distant outlines blur and emerge, static but stirring ever so slightly under the relentless breeze. Staring into the vast openness, your mind seeks movement, a silhouette or a whisper of activity among the shifting shadows, but beyond flickering tree lines and the clinging wisps of night fog, there is little to discern. The essential contradiction of medieval watchkeeping becomes all too clear. Tasked with vigilance against potential threats, you spend most of your time battling with the mind's own inventiveness, the rare company amongst far-reaching emptiness. A modern pun might wryly proclaim, "They never said night watchmen live in a soap opera," and it rings true, a drama punctuated with an aching normality. In the midst of this quiet, time become viscous, each minute stretching into eternity, led forward by nothing more than anticipation's delicate thread. Your senses remain alert, active in doubt, searching for anything to draw you from the repetitive churn of your thoughts, a rustle in the underbrush, the echo of far-off howls, even the distant crack of a branch breaking under invisible feet. This desperate longing for stimulus is both a deception and relief. It coaxes the brain into imagining phantoms where none dwell, turning shadows cast by moonlight upon themselves into ghostly sentinels and historic echoes. Your focus, unfaltering at all times, contemplates every space, every tremor of nature's familiarity, writ in invisible ink upon the horizon. This fabric of dreams knits the mind toward imagined stories, lurking between the seams of reality and legend. Faced with this void, you reach for company from the past, men and women who have acted out similar roles, linked by shared burdens and tasks repeated through the corridors of time. You recall tales of ingenuity, how idle hands crafted carvings into their wooden post perches, or past moments where song whispered beyond these stone walls. Historians still argue about the extent of artistic endeavors born from this loneliness. Were these creations acts of defiance against the monotony, or mere tokens marking the passage of time, persevering against energy's rest? Embrace one curiosity: small games devised in secret, like knights drawing crosswords onto parchment with graphite sticks, abstract recreations not yet known to future ages. Inventive answers to the monotony form pinpricks of creativity in nascent darkness, pursued in fits of inspiration during these dimly lit interludes. Through history, the mind has danced upon any idle moment, vaulting over reality's restraint. Yet, vigilance itself remains your foremost duty. Despite the towering boredom, the knowledge that any moment could erupt with urgency keeps you tethered, ready to spring from this seeming slumber. And amid the necessity for awareness lies a hint of surrealism on tender ground between invading armies bustling forward on phantom decal designs and loping villager footfalls shifting along permissible lanes. Every murmur to the wind lies, ripe with either promise or potential, each varying pulse commanding vigilance, serene in temperament. When night crawls on, seemingly unaware, when temporal journeys at once arrived, yet unspent unfold toward horizons balanced along endless echoes, recognize the ceaseless tie that binds centuries in duty and honor. It's a shared reclaim that conscripts you among countless souls, each aligned upon the stage of history. Accept that vigils centered here are more than mere monotony born. They likewise trace enduring arcs dreamt upon stars, shine beyond this veil of challenge toward triumphant remembrance of those holding watch nightly, an eternal cadence borne upon light's murmuring edge. Act along the night's precipice, stationed among the echoes heard only in silence, where even the shadows interwoven embrace, whisper decade-old tales belonging to this ageless keeper crypt. And so, despite the invincible anchor of ennui clinging to your edges, its tendrils extend through within the woven fabric of the night. Extinguish requires an unbending will, one forged in nocturnal resolution and tuned by triumph. The dawn will reward not just that vigil's timely conclusion, but the endurance and patience honed with every painstaking moment balanced along an undulant future, held endlessly within each fire's resurgence and shadow's modest company. Each breath and step bound onward with this recount, etching both peerless resolve and consideration. Because within and beyond each watchful lone guardian, echoes roam between hearts, ever welded into timeless dance across night's flawless arc. As the tower walls stand firm against the night, an unexpected form of companionship stirs within the shadows, faint but persistent the presence of small critters, the true tenants of the medieval landscape. Rats, those cunning survivors, scuttle unseen along the cold stone floors, their tiny claws clicking a subtle rhythm against ancient rock, while insects buzz softly within the cracks and crevices of the structure. In the absence of human company, your field of vision shares its space with these relentless life forms, whose own survival skills echo those of your predecessors. These diminutive companions, while not expressly welcome, are certainly regulars within the tower's confines, contributing to the scene with their industrious and untroubled existence. You've humorously heard them likened to sentries in their own right, albeit undisturbed by the expectations set upon the watchman. Rats keep their own time. Someone might quip a testament to their attention to the beat of life's most pressing need, foraging and survival. Your night's silent vigil may occasionally engage with the rustle of these critters as they weave between the shadows and along the sterile edges of illumination. There's a strange sort of fascination watching their nimble dance beneath beams of flickering torchlight, bodies flowing as liquid shadow, suggesting everything the darkness strives to conceal. Their presence speaks volumes of a shared world within the stone, an invisible yet palpable community, reaping the benefits of abandoned crisp-bread crumbs or the idle leftovers of stored grain. Insects also swing through with tireless persistence, flies and gnats tingling your senses with their incessant drone. In the cobwebbed dim and damp air, spiders weave tirelessly, their sticky traps laid for unsuspicious visitors in nocturnal stealth. Crafty and borderless, they cast their own webs of life upon the tower's interior throne, their seamless artistry, a whisper of nature's enduring cycle. Historians still debate the extent to which these small animals plagued medieval life, whether they offered small comforts or, more often, sowed seeds of pestilence and annoyance, playing their role in diseases spread, yet also respected for a persistence rivaled only by humanity's own. With every scurrying rat or hovering fly, the living history of resilience evolves quietly within these towering walls, a reminder of life throbbing, untamed and unrepentant, against the indifference of time. Here, it might interest you to consider the moments before sophisticated methods and heartfelt campaigns against vermins emerged. Such practical developments, lost in future distant from this immediate engagement, may have seemed sheer fantasy. Critics from future chronological perches, reluctant to interpret these quiet moments, might smirk at each scuttling detail as quaint counterparts, unwillingly ensconced in history's mealtime reprise. Of course, while these small creatures go about their business, you become ever mindful of their precarious season, not so far removed from human kin dancing amid the token gestures of life's dance. Much like familiarity found only through shared necessity, their adaptability reminds you that life shall endure, weaving through the earth's mantle, whether anticipated or untamed. It may even spark a cordial nod toward your distant neighbor, the far-off and thoughtful hermit, letting miraculous creation explain both bug and sky. A thought imagined, though unseen, along the tower's watchful periphery. No longer just nuisances, these critters weave themselves musically into the tower's fabric, playing off the night's usual orchestra. While others might seize, grim and unsmiling, At these individual stories amid shadow, your acceptance lies more faintly poised, a trick twofold of recognition and endurance. The rhythmic clatter of claws painted subaqueous and pulled beneath sings melancholy notes to harmony's symphony set against the backdrop of a still world turning on omitted cues. As such, this gathering of silent partners is, to some, a manageable encumbrance placed upon tower life. Yet others consider them a testament from tales contained in stone and midnight cauldron mysteries. One myth fastened in life, and relentless glances traced between elemental strangers, inhabiting halves of the hidden sphere between imitative whim and nightly consumption. In the basal hum of entrenched kin, surrounded by sturdy stone, each night becomes an unveiling among ancient narratives. Life hums and proliferates quietly among the crevices, pledging with solace, dissolving within familiarity's dusk. Whilst sentinel shadows travel beyond trawl, perception weighs upon benevolent balances, thriving patiently amidst night's unseen furl, encircling your ponderous vigil. And so the eternal watch remains fortified by unseen company, providing ethereality to humble acceptance. Companions alike in survival eschew question's pulse, marking time's passage alongside history's as aged echoes among chiaroscuro's irrevocable distance. Here, then, they live and breathe beside you, a manifestation of enduring struggle newly patched upon silence's rhythmic beat, speaking to the quintessential journey shared in steps both minute and monumental. As you navigate the seemingly endless hours of your vigil, the realization dawns upon you that even minor injuries could pose a significant threat. Crude medical knowledge in medieval times amplifies the danger of life-threatening infections or debilitating maladies from what might seem to modern minds as inconsequential mishaps. This awareness buzzes in the back of your mind, much like the insects that hover within the dim confines of the Watchtower. With each step along the cold, uneven stones, the slip of a foot or the unintended brush of your hand against the rough walls could lead to scrapes or cuts that, in this time, could prove perilous. The thought lingers that without swift and proper care, such injuries become gateways through which infection may claim its unwieldy entrance, spiraling into something far more severe. The tower's resident kit is far from what you'd access today. There are no sterile wraps or antiseptics neatly organized in neat compartments. Instead, healing is reliant on the age-old art of herbs and intuition, lore whispered through generations, compounded in the repository of experience. You might find plantain leaves, crushed into a poultice, or garlic cloves wielded as a humble panacea, a medieval form of nature's factory against looming ailments. Imagine the jest, should you succumb to the humor of the times. Why fret about a scratch? It's just an open invitation for a plague party. Yet, beneath the laughter lies a very real concern, a reminder that the spectre of disease was never far from hand, lurking in each unattended wound or cough echoing through warrens of stone. Strange as it might seem, the concept of balance is at play here, balancing caution and action, intuition and superstition. Each flicker of torchlight casts shadows that don't merely dance but prognosticate, urging the mind toward tales of old remedies and spells designed with both seriousness and whimsy in mind. Historians still argue about the effectiveness of medieval treatments. Were they beneficial engagements with nature, or at best placebo cloaked in hopeful airs? The mysterious domain of the apothecary resides in your mind as well, a place filled with dried roots and bottled tinctures. This medieval semblance of a pharmacy delves into the arcane, an intersection of trust placed in wooden shelves lined with jars, bearing labels in Latin or even forgotten dialects. While some mixtures work based on pragmatic botany, others employ a mix of charm and chance, hinged on belief and community advice, passed from lips to parchment to law. But even within the scant knowledge of the time, brilliant minds steered efforts, men and women striving towards healing with all available means at their disposal. They leave traces in history as pioneers of natural law, walking borderlands of science and spirituality in medleys of remedies and hopeful incantations as they sought the simplicity of remedies within the relentless march toward understanding. Reflect for a moment on the pressure of caring for oneself when the consequences weigh heavily against the backdrop of duty. It curiously recalls the image of dragon scales within one's reach, but none yet tempered a knight who stands ready to wield history's arsenal of plant life against wounds endured. And thus, your role as both ward and warrior grows evident. Your heart pulls double duty, aware of the fragility contained within existence sheltered beside stone and flame. Knowledge not only saves, but bolsters courage amidst the ignorance of secrets catalogued beyond simple perception. Moreover, in this prolonged night watch, reflect upon the quieter acts of bravery, not broadcast through song or fable. The simple act of survival plays out within daily tasks, unsung yet profound. Upon such ground do you tread, poised tenderly against history's balance. Small victories yielded from tending a cut or silencing a rampant cough with a hot brew, each act speaks to triumphs made all the more remarkable for their understated nature. Finally, as dawn edges nearer, you recognize the simple faith placed in each poultice applied, each herb gathered from nature's embrace. Seamlessly interwoven with reverent care, the trust in these rudimentary remedies fosters a connection through layers of time and space. They bind you, the medieval watcher, with those brave seekers of the esoteric past, filled with wonder and hope, rooted in the shadows of incongruity, a perfect tapestry spun within the garden of existence. Here, this story passes in quiet echoes, heightened by gentle accomplishment along aisles of resilience planted transiently along the tower's edge, where stone and vigilance merge in testament to time's skillful watch over every page turned within healing's book pages, bathed eternally beneath sunrise's promise. In the hushed stillness of the night, sound becomes both a herald and a harbinger, seeping through the walls of the watchtower with an unyielding presence. The midnight air is dense with silence, but it only takes a subtle shift, a rustle, a creak, or a distant howl to pierce this quiet shroud, sending ripples of unease through your conscious mind. As a sentinel, your ability to discern and interpret sounds is paramount. Every unfamiliar noise becomes a potential threat, tugging at your attention even as fatigue threatens to lull your senses. The night transforms. Ambient sounds, typically ignored in the light of day, take on an urgency that demands respect. It's a regimented ballet of acoustics, where each turn of leaves and every stray gust of wind whispers secrets carried through the corridors of time. These sound waves carry their own stories. The gentle rustle of leaves suggests the night animal's nocturnal dance foraging beneath the stars, while the occasional groan from the tower's wooden beams might hint at the structure's patience, wearing thin against the elements. More crucial are the unexpected sounds, a branch snapping perhaps in the woods beyond, or the distant bark of a fox, sharply distinct against the soft murmur of the breeze. In this symphony of the night, the natural world speaks a quiet language of its own, a dialogue you must interpret meticulously. Your mind rehearses every possibility, a gentle analytic consideration of echoes and wind-borne messages. Nearby, the low call echoes. A tree falls in the forest, but who's to say it doesn't lie about how it landed? This humor tickles the edge of contemplation, a jest disguising a watchful vigilance. It's through sound that the very essence of the medieval world is amplified. Not unlike today's modern equivalent of pressing play on an ambient soundtrack, these natural melodies narrate continuous cycles of life and survival. The lonely cry of a night owl, or the lazy coo of a wood pigeon, dutifully contributes its chord to this ephemeral orchestra. A concerto with ancient motifs knotted in present time's measure. Sound holds power, etching fear, and during gales, a hint of refinery. Legends embrace the atmospheric echoes, tales of phantom armies stirring along spectral paths through the night. Historians still argue the presence of these persistent myths interwoven with fear, wonder, and superstition, enunciating nightly theatre for vigilant and vulnerable alike. Through this auditory landscape, your senses stay vigilant for telltale signs, the snap of a twig that signals intrusion, or the unmistakable clangor of steel against stone, potentially betraying those who might approach under the cloak of darkness. Sound then becomes an ally, a prelude to action, a melody resting beneath quiet hands, ready to spring into alert response. In this almost meditative state, every aspect of the night becomes a guide, hinting ambiguously at the layers between folk legends and living tradition. Envision a 15th century psalm humorously murmuring among echoes. Sing toward dawn before echoes carry yesterday's regrets. An ancient jest fits its way into consciousness, aid its giggle ascending across moods, quiet crossing every vigilant breath. It is through this vigilant stillness, imbued with sounds both mundane and mythical, that you grasp the precipice between vigilance and reverie, where silence heeds the edge of anticipation. This sonic tapestry of the night provides both lifeline and containment, sculpting tension into calm ephemera while anchoring reality through dream. As dawn's herald intrudes upon night's fading symphony, your duty fulfilled through attentive ear symbolizes a tacit agreement with history. It shapes you not with grand design but intimate purpose. Listen closely, and even echoes bear warmth beneath twilight's hushed embrace, the melody singing deep within solitude's heart, bolstering nature's beauty, shared only through sound invincible, ephemeral at once, held lovingly aloft upon each breath and exhale. You capture the story sung along shadow's voice, tracing silhouettes beside sound itself. Compelling, reassuring, protecting the archive of an era long unmeasured, chosen with each passing night's persistent hum. In the enduring solitude of the Watchtower night, the challenge of communication unveils itself as both a practical necessity and a formidable test. The methods available to relay messages are limited and rudimentary, reflecting a time when technology had yet to shrink distances or quicken our words. Here, the very act of communicating feels anchored in a bygone era, a deliberate, slower dance where urgency meets constraint with graceful measures of patience. The tools at your disposal are as primitive as they are ingenious, revealing a world that relies on creativity to breach the silence of the dark. Through the many layers of history, communication has developed long before the chatter of wireless networks or the snapshot immediacy of shared images. In its stead, other practices prevailed, such as the flow of water slowly carving its meandering path through rock. The beacons and bonfires that dot the landscape are the ancestral forebears of societal alerts, a night watch's flare to signal phantom threats from afar. Picture these fires lighting up the distance like scattered fireflies. Twinkling against the cloak of midnight, they act as visual Morse code meant to traverse vast spaces with flames that cut through darkness with urgency and purpose. Sometimes, simple horn signals break the monotony, a series of blasts echoing across the distance with encoded warnings or calls to assembly. Imagine these sounds, carrying their timeless stories over valleys and hills, as each subtle inflection or fierce tone orchestrates a chorus relaying myriad messages. In jokes whispered among watchmen, you might sense the light-hearted frustration in a quip about emptying one's lungs on another false wolf call, mocking the sometimes Byzantine code arrangements. During daylight hours, the flutter of banners or emphatic gestures would replace other methods of communication, as flags announce their vivid messages to distant outposts or weary travelers, each symbol loaded with meaning, conveyed in colors both bright and somber. But under moonlight, even these bright splashes of color become indistinguishable, save for when torch or moonlight catches them just so. Yet each method, in its simplicity, bears meaning, serving its community as a thread in the greater tapestry of survival and solidarity, a narrative that whispers through generations, from stone-faced townsfolk to chiseled nobility with nuanced intent. It harks back to a world that feels wonderfully untethered, yet yearning for connectivity, bound more by history's written scripts and murmured tales than the instantaneous pings of modern equivalents. Historians still debate the efficiency of these pre-literate communication lines, arguing whether they were more limited than previously imagined or overladen with complexity that accounted for the time's peculiar balance of peace against fear. In essence, they spoke frequently without words of a world bracketed by constancy and ingenuity, maps yet to be drawn on the Earth's surface etched with stories worth vocalizing across air's impervious claim. More intimate methods of communication sneak their way through unseen conduits, couriers armed only with resolve, hoofbeats against soil resounding the importance of their cargo. Parcels wrapped in cloth, messages inked onto parchment, fragile as wind's touch are conveyed. Ironically, a storyteller might imagine these riders sharing tales amidst errant gallops, their recollections woven with as much urgency as the actual words they bear. Within the confines of your tower, these networks feel removed, yet the silent pact remains. Each message passed, inbound or outbound, forms a link in the unbroken chain of support, lent by kindred souls guardians elsewhere, leaning forward, peering into their own throned stone's embrace. A shadowy fraternity linked by partial truths and the universal language of vigilance. Stand still for a moment, listening attentively to those echoes. A choir of historical voices lingering through time's wearied adversity, urging patience, cultivation, and the nuanced skill of listening to messages largely unformed. It reveals a world alive with possibilities, where whispers exchanged with time become messages cloaked in mystery, yet painstakingly known to those who master their subtleties. And so, amidst this tapestry of silent watch and spoken lore, one finds wonder in primitive promise language, ancient as the first heartbeat, where words and signals both proclaim kin-borrowing space, alongside dreams reread. You are reminded of words forming from elegant fire stenography or cast from shadows, evoking tales heard softly beneath moonlit vigils laid patiently open. As the profound silence journeys with dawn, held literally upon spectral watchtowers, embrace time's timeless scroll awaiting new readings. Histories never cease curating entwined narratives. Always ready for the world, another primeval turn, found by form's kinsman. Recall upon night, fated beneath ancestral sky, loosely held, but richly composed upon parchment's bold embrace by torchlight's tender hand. In the flickering torchlight of the medieval watchtower, a profound realization dawns: you are part of a lineage, a continuum of guardians who have stood here before you, each passing night, imbuing the tower's stones with their own brand of vigilance. Yet, you quickly become aware that the training and experience necessary for this role are often as varied as they are dictated by necessity rather than preference. Within the tower's confines, skills are often honed through practice rather than formal instruction, an apprenticeship of sorts that relies heavily on learning from those who have survived the long nights of previous watches. There are no manuals or official training programs. Instead, the process is far more organic, knowledge handed down from one watchkeeper to another in a word of mouth, traditions steeped in the practical realities of survival. Your fellow watchmen, and possibly those who've stood here previously, serve as living repositories of this crucial knowledge. What city folk today might call a training team, without the PowerPoints. They impart wisdom accumulated over countless nights, sharing insights into the nature of the elements, the subtleties of sound, and the art of remaining alert when fatigue and monotony threaten to dull your senses. This knowledge couldn't be more critical. To many, the ability to discern the natural rhythms of life around the tower, a subtle rustle in the underbrush, the intermingling play of moonlight and shadow, even the faintest whiff of something out of place, can mean the difference between a vigilant watch and a night that slips into peril. One might joke that the only certification you'll earn here is the privilege of sunrise after a dark night, a medal in rustic perseverance and heightened awareness. While humor is often a companion holding light against this challenging night watch, it is the somber truths that likely ground you those moments when men did more than stand against stone-faced winds, but also faced unknowability with resilient courage. The skills you refine aren't limited to the physical. Each night hones mental acuity, pushing you to develop an intuitive understanding of the behaviors and patterns that play out in the dark realm beyond. There's a certain rhythm to this dance with time, an unspoken cadence that reveals itself only to those who engage deeply with their environment, embraced by nature's inconstant embrace. Historians still debate about the viability and depth of such training methods, wondering whether peer learning and communal wisdom crafted better sentinels than formalized training, that peculiar paradox of knowing without formal acknowledgement, ancient alike across kaleidoscopic periods, lifting the curtain on the wealth of instinct shared. The absence of a standardized regimen might seem quaint by today's structured expectations, but there's genuine merit to learning shaped by experience, trial, and error. Each battle with the night ingrains lessons with a potency no lesson plan can capture. Here reliability takes precedence over pretense. The traditional learnings continue through the stories encoded in seasoned gestures, like how shift signals guide brakes efficiently, or the way one handles the unexpected axis shift in weather, when fortress stone proves as porous as illustrious cloth. Though no scroll records it, the knowledge percolates from quiet conversation between companions, affixed to the roam of pensive moonbeams, shadow dancing across grounded stones. It's this lived experience that intertwines with tales of invention fashioned in desperation beneath shadow's understanding. Perhaps the twist of a rope, signal conveyed from one solitary watchtower to another, becomes a prodigious leap forward, a direct echo heralding the world amidst all unsealed fable. This is the nuance. Within this watch, you don't just stand guard over stone and flame, but also custodianship. Those who have come before lend their spectral hands as guides, with insights that, while unrecorded, resonate new understanding in timelessness. Each story etched through night whispers, new lenses worthy of insight, granted upon stories fairly allotted in acceptance, with time's long breadth. As the sky begins its gradual shift in light, you reflect upon the silent testament within these walls, the mark left by each individual who stood in this very spot, contributing to a legacy invisible yet felt. The necessity of duty embodied in ties of simple training, challenges met with willful embrace shapes the watch, year after year. Within this resonance, find comfort in how old stories share guidance through their listening, weaving openness into steadfast guards. You remain, carved into history, the recipient of lessons born in endurance and crafted through circumstance, as murmured by fractured stories on whispered lips. This repository, unencumbered and unbroken, connects stone with conscious memory, the pulse of life sustained by shadows cast by time's gentle witness anew. As the moon arches gracefully across the night sky and the stars maintain their stately vigil, you feel an inevitable heaviness descend upon you, the creeping spectre of sleep deprivation that plays its own relentless game with watchkeepers. In these medieval surroundings, fatigue is both familiar and formidable, a challenging adversary that dances at the edge of your eyelids with a beguiling persistence. Sleep becomes a coveted luxury, one that must be carefully rationed and fiercely guarded against the demands of your duty. The isolation of the tower amplifies this yearning for rest, as silence swathes you in its embrace, and the body's natural rhythms insist upon their due. Fatigue wields its influence subtly at first, a soft whisper in the back of your mind that gradually crescendos into a chorus you cannot ignore, as though each hour, each minute, stretches on edge, like the taut string of a bow. The struggle is as old as watchkeeping itself, a tussle with the body's needs and the mind's endurance. You attempt to fend off slumber through sheer willpower, resorting to a patchwork of remedies passed down from generations. Sometimes, small movements help, pacing the tower's circumference or flexing your fingers to chase away the leaden weight that threatens to drag you into dreams. A splash of cold water, though limited, remains the favored recourse, biting sharply into the skin and banishing the shadows that cling at the corners of your mind. In the solitude that watch entails, humorously, considering a medieval coffee break becomes a frustrated amusement, and how a modern cup of coffee could be a miracle cure against the tide of drowsiness is dashed upon the rocks of absent historical convenience. Instead, you focus on the endurance of the soul, tempered over long nights beneath an unending canopy of stars. Oftentimes, the fight against sleep takes on the guise of a game, an internal contest where stakes remain under the governance of history's steely resolve. The occasional self-murmured quip might echo soft upon the stone. "Stay awake, or let the mice guard the cheese," a jest spurred by necessity rather than circumstance. As much as vigilance commands your attention, the seduction of sleep whispers sweetly, a tempting embrace waiting just beyond the periphery of duty. Historians still argue the number of watchmen who succumb to these murmurings per night, besieged by dreams while stoic castle stones stand witness. Nevertheless, such considerations often remain unpinned. Conversations captured once in the secrets shared between watchmen, their scores left centuries undeclared. The physiological effects of lack of sleep stretch far beyond wearied vision or lagging thoughts. Reactions slow, perception of sound disorients, quick assessments grow laboriously fetched from wandering reveries. the very signals stone-carved sentinels are supposed to guard, weaken beneath fatigue's gambit. Within buoyant thoughts, balanced by surrendered bars of an ember-lit mingling word, contemplate the possibility of fresh days compared against long-stored revelation. Whatever minor quests unfold during nocturnal marches, the pervasive need for sleep seldom abates. If anything, it creates a heightened awareness, entwined with mystical yawns lacing endurances in depth. Romanticism rarely leads nerve into repose affected without consequence. Realities waver between vigilant dare and shadowy leap, retreating upon purpose. Yet curiosity rises with another thought: how watchkeepers once avoided sleep, perhaps through alter-narrative claims relegating moments suspended. Did they tiptoe alongside nature's messaging, awaiting lullabies presented by sporadic outcroppings of moonlit symphonies emitted from entangled horizon? Did post-watch tales tincture first light stories with remnant embers? With the dawn creeping upon the horizon, the accolade won not merely an award of ceaseless vigilance, nor the ethical yield of unbroken duty, but something more eternally worthwhile, acknowledging the delicate journey's end, marked with the resilience of ancient watch life. Beholder unto shadows only near briefly, its peace recedes easily within tales differently told. As well, through this drifting competition of need and necessity a lesson resides. Each turn, internal founded height of one poised betwixt light's narrative melody. Shadow commits where faucets of realization embrace noble nightwig clemency unto harmony's page. Advocate, apprentice swim across stream of time, a human endeavor's voyage spans towards symmetry's unending cause, a conquest both wild and rustic, pursued by hope, drawn branch, traced homeward beneath morning's tender glance. For herein lies wisdom. Woven fragile remains, dreamer born beneath every siege, now granted rest, past and presently intertwined. As you navigate the mysteries and challenges of the medieval night, an underlying discomfort makes itself known: the structural vulnerabilities of the Watchtower itself. Standing beneath its ancient stones, there is an ever-perceptible tension between its formidable facade and underlying fragility. Despite its outward appearance of strength, the tower is not invincible. It has weathered countless storms, both of nature and time, and each creak and groan echoes a subtle whisper of its gathered burdens. The foundations of the tower, though anchored in centuries past, grapple with the passage of time and the elements that erode even the mightiest rock. As you walk the narrow corridors and ascend the winding stairs, you can almost feel the building's age straining against its very purpose. Every gust of wind rattles through the joints and beams as though testing the tower's mettle. Is it ready to stand firm? Or will it yield to the eventual decay that every structure must face? Imagine the watchman's frequent jest, perhaps whispered with grim humor as a sigh passes his lips. This watchtower would make a fine inn if it didn't shake on its foundations. This humor bellies a very real concern, a nod to the fact that impermanence is a theme as ancient as the stones set in place cons ago. Still, the ingenuity of ages past brought about a practical resolve. The tower's architecture was designed to be stout and fortified against invaders and elements alike. But even the best-laid towers cannot escape the creeping vines of time. Historians continue to debate the longevity of these watchtowers, whether they were marvels of medieval engineering or merely stopgaps against historical inevitability. Nevertheless, their existence today, cast against a modern skyline, inspires awe, yet beckons trepidation for how much longer they shall stand. Listen closely, and you might hear the whisper of bricks as they settle more deeply into the earth, each one telling its own story of endurance against invisible forces that threaten its stability. The oak timbers creak with a life of their own, having matured under the breath of the forest long before they were hewn into beams. Supportive, yes, but not immune to rot or termite, that persistent droning reminder that the earth reclaims, piece by piece, without haste. Your role as a watchkeeper includes not only vigilance over the surrounding countryside, but also attentiveness to the stones themselves. Maintenance, while not glamorous, is a necessary art. Lime mortar is slathered into widening cracks. Every loose tile or shingle now becomes either a potential hazard or one more place for moisture to breach the stone's defenses. Amidst your watch, you keep a wary eye even as the wind whistles softly, a playful reminder that even the strongest fortresses have their Achilles heel. Each towering wall, each buttress bolstered under its own decaying weight, bears silent witness to history's times of war and peace. Imagine, if you will, the great armies marching past, their banners rippling under these very heights, unaware of the board beneath the feet, whispering its fatigue through masonry joints now muted. The thought of such vulnerability, both sobering and yet testament to human ingenuity, accompanies each shift you take. Yet, there's a humble resilience to the tower that matches your own, both settled into a dance with time that promises a singular fellowship amid the endless march of ruin and renewal. Within this dance lies an eternal promise. The walls remain a conduit for stories of past endurance to weave into newer generations. As dawn matures, its first light cascades over the stones, highlighting the intricate nuances of the tower's structural features, its archways etched in silver and shadow, its rugged texture glowing warm under the touch of gold. In such moments, the tower seems to don a mantle of renewed vigor, casting off its ancient fatigue, firmly set to greet another day. Though it stands surrounded in imperfection, it also exudes a beauty imbued with time, a blend of artistry in stone and engineering against forgotten expectations, a noble relic shaped not only by pragmatic intent, but imagination, born from necessity. And so, keeping watch, you embrace the imperfections within the perfect curves of history. These towers and their guardians persist, as resonant chapters meld into scenes possessed of gentle perseverance, collective yesterday contained within enduring breath. While the night yields to dawn's understanding, the lessons lingered. Life tremors as rhythmic echoes blending one iteration unto another, held quietly entranced. In solitude's written kingdom, embrace the quiet gravity of coexistence shared, marking sentiment in elegance entwined beyond this stone tableau, and memory's newly fashioned light drawn past flecked silver morning. As the night stretches on within the medieval watchtower, a necessity more critical than even the warm embrace of fire or the solidity of stone reveals itself: water, simple and precious. In an era long before the conveniences of plumbing or the assurance of endless supplies, access to clean water is a constant preoccupation, its importance rivaling even the vigilance of your watch. The scarcity of this life-giving element dictates much of the watchtower routine and profoundly influences the quality of life in its confines. Survival here depends on thoughtful water management, with methods employed to collect, store, and ration every drop like the treasure it is. Rainwater collection is perhaps the most prevalent method, with rudimentary systems ingeniously devised to catch and channel rainfall. Gutters carved into stone lead to cisterns below, concealed underground, the natural coolness of the earth, preserving their life-sustaining bounty until needed. Every raindrop that falls is eagerly captured, a small victory against unpredictability. In a moment of jest, one might imagine a watchman propped up like a human umbrella during heavy rain, commenting to the skies with dry wit, "Maybe today's the day I finally learn to swim atop my stone steed." The humor thinly veils a deeper understanding of water's role in securing the tower's steadfastness against the desiccating forces of time. The importance of these measures becomes poignantly clear on dry nights, when every sound attunes your senses to the hope and distant promise of incoming storms. A clear evening sky, resplendent with stars, might be a stunning spectacle, yet it also spells the absence of water's gentle certainty. In the internal corridors of the watchtower, the clink of an empty bucket echoes with more than mere resonance. It's a gentle reminder of the ceaseless cycle that binds life to this resource. Historians still argue about the efficacy of water management in medieval architectures and how these practices shaped settlements and defenses. Some view them as marvels of pragmatic engineering, while others suggest their limited reach explained by modern convenience. Yet, these storied designs showcase the innovation born from absolute necessity, a harmony between human ingenuity and nature's bounty, forged through restless nights and dawn's arriving hope. The cistern within, however rudimentary, also serves other purposes. It doubles as a kind of community touchstone, a place where companions exchange stories while drawing water, their reflections mingling with the ancient stones, stoically keeping tally of conversations shared. These quiet moments throughout the night become as essential as the water itself, nourishing both body and spirit, the threads of community unspooling between each drop drawn. A peculiar anecdote might involve a nocturnal tradition of pouring the first and last draw of water, each shift as both omen and gratitude, profound simplicity, born in practice and myth alike. They paint the canvas of medieval sky metaphoric. To pour water back into hope's reflective pool is to welcome the wheels turning on another night's watch, a cyclical homage appreciated through torrents and drafts. Elsewhere, resourcefulness reigns. Leather sacks hold a carrying capacity limited only by one's skill in crafting them. Invaluable companions for trips to the nearest water source should rain refuse participation in nightly sealage. Still, one cannot wholly escape the laborious duties associated with supplementing the tower's strategic reserves. The journey to find water in less convenient moments embodies patience, commitment, and the unyielding tether between necessity and environment. It is often said that challenges forge bonds, and so it is here with water as the catalyst. No task unites the tower's residents more than the communal duty to maintain, guard, and celebrate this indispensable resource. Over time, these routines foster an unspoken understanding, a shared respect for nature's precarious balances and the unwavering resilience to navigate them. As the first hints of dawn sketch their tentative light over the horizon, the water within the cistern mirrors the sky's gentle change, a subtle acceptance of the endless cycle, binding past watchers to present vigil and promising renewal with each successive night. In this Watchtower's embrace, where permanence and transience coexist, water becomes more than sustenance. It is a reminder of the primal ties binding humanity to the earth and sky, a reality as resonant as the tower itself. Here, while one may struggle for sustenance, the quenching sip embodies the symbiotic storytelling that marks history's steady tread. In its eternal, hushed repository, water reflects time past and present, shadow and sun, where the gaze of a vigilant soul meets time's unwavering embrace, drawn gently forward upon the stream. As the interminable night within the medieval watchtower wears on, another dark companion edges closer, a subtle, insidious presence that resides in the quiet corners of your mind. These are the mind games, those relentless tricks played by a solitude-fed imagination, where reality blurs and shadows shift into something far more menacing. The isolation that comes with watchkeeping is not just physical but mental, paving the way for a theatre of uncertainty crafted by your ever-active mind. The night's silence becomes heavy, like a thick velvet curtain sweeping shadows across your senses. As fatigue sets in, your tired mind becomes both ally and adversary, casting doubts and weaving stories out of the darkness. Shapes loom larger than life, and the once distant howl of a woodland creature morphs swiftly into the cries of a spectral force, or perhaps the murmured conspiracies of approaching enemies. In these solitary watches, even the simplest noises, a creak of timber, the rustling of unseen life, all gain weight, acquiring sinister undertones. Left too long in this isolation, a watchman's sight might fabricate its own peculiar vision. The dancing light, reflecting off dewdrops, becomes a column of ghostly soldiers on the march. It's said that one such hypnotic tale drags somewhere in shadows that an experienced watchman once quipped, "If only shadow watchers could be paid for keeping company with the unseen." This is where vigilance, so actively cultivated in bodily alertness, must also extend inward, guarding not just against intruders from physical spaces around you, but also against phantoms nurtured in the mind's recesses. The task of keeping watch in the medieval era demands an additional kind of fortitude, an ability to manage the stories your mind spins when left unchecked by the stiff bridle of daylight reason. At times, the mind might even find itself slipping into a trance, its attention drifting into the realm of dreams, becoming susceptible to weaving stranger narratives into the fabric of reality. You could almost imagine the echoes of prior sentinels' cautious humor, whispered with a grin amidst the echoes. Befriend your shadows. They're all the company you need. Historians still argue over how prevalent such hallucinations were among medieval watchers. Were they the result of regular deprivations, or was there a deeper psychological rigor required to withstand the watch? What is undeniable, however, is the universal battle shared among those who stare into the void, the necessity to reclaim the boundaries of sense and perception. In facing these mind-inflicted illusions, the watchkeeper's bravery is tested. Yet, through this trial blooms an involuntary wisdom, an astuteness in discerning between the shadows that pose no threat and those which herald danger. From these midnight musings, a kind of intuition is born, a secondary sight that transcends the immediate. Such testing encounters usher in the question examined by tales and whispered among peers. What is more potent, the enemy from outside or the one within? Be it an echo from memory's vault or the soft-spoken fib brought out beneath dreaming's canopy, balancing imagination's wide reach with rational vigilance delineates valor between illusion and custodian. And thus, as night endures beneath these stone bastions, the interplay between reality and imagination unfolds, like a sword fight on a parchment sea. Patience and mindfulness become twin allies, encouraging focus upon genuine surroundings, allowing imagination's canvas to yield gently to dawn. With the horizon steadily erasing night's indigo hue, the ease of light prevails over twisted narratives created by dusk. Reveal the trembling curves. Sunlight. Draw long lines across earthly vistas, showing truth within this timeless stone wherein subtle hand brushes the fractal realm gathering past forethought's fold. In such moments, you embody both vessel and translator of shadows, cajoled into shedding night's fabricated worlds in favor of day's integrity. Here reside histories etched within watchful chronicles, imbued with the intricate dance of mindscapes tethered to landscape's silent call, whispering assurance in beauty wrapped upon welcoming morn. Here at daybreak, embrace the knowing that amid this solitary corridor of vigil, imagination knowingly contours endurance, shadowing told and untold mysteries at the heart of Watchkeeper's defiant gaze. As the night holds sway over the ancient Watchtower, the weather emerges as both ally and adversary, intertwining itself with the fabric of your watch. The winds that howl through the stone embrasures, the lashing rains that pound relentlessly against the walls, and the bone-chilling dampness that creeps through every crevice, all combine to create a visceral challenge that tests both body and spirit. The weather here is a capricious master, unpredictable in its ferocity. A clear, starlit sky can quickly transform into a swirling tempest, the heavens unleashing their fury upon the earth below. The tower stands stalwart against these assaults, each storm a reminder of nature's untamed power and the relentless passage of time. You may find yourself bracing against the gusts, feeling the cold seep into your bones as rain pelts the walls, leaving trails of moisture that glisten eerily in the torchlight. In these moments, you are acutely aware of your vulnerability, the tower offering limited refuge from the elements. The very air seems alive with an electric tension, crackling with the promise of storm-born drama. Your clothes, already meager in their protection, cling sodden and cold against your skin, each droplet a reminder of the tower's exposure to the whims of the natural world. Amidst the storm's fury, you picture the jest among the tower's guardians. Who needs a bath when the heavens oblige? It's a humor born from necessity, an acceptance of circumstances beyond control that colors the life of those who stand watch. Resilience here is not merely a trait but a constant requirement, demanding an embrace of both the discomfort and awe inspired by the weather's wild ballet. The tower, with its ancient stonework, channels and amplifies the orchestra of the storm. Whistling winds play eerie melodies through the cracks, while thunder reverberates like some great drum, an echo of ancient symphonies performed in nature's vast theatre. Yet, while the storm may be fearsome, it also acts as a companion of sorts, its own presence reassuring, its rhythms a reminder that even amidst chaos, there exists a natural order. It provides a strange comfort, this violent perfection that masks the dangers which might lurk within the dark veil of the night, humans and beasts alike, quelled by the storm's command. Historians debate how weather's caprices impacted the lives of those isolated within such towers, whether it forced alliances between man and element, or merely imposed its rule upon human frailty. The impact is undeniable, a testament to the sway nature holds across the ages. While bearing witness to the storm's might, you also recognize preparation's role, the necessity of forethought in grappling with these forces. Each storm teaches, engraving its lessons upon your memory, a reminder of the fragile balance that nature demands, the equilibrium necessary to endure. In the calm that follows, the air sweetens the tower, greets the dawn with renewed clarity, as though cleansed by rain's alchemy. Dew drapes the earth with jeweled tendrils, the light's first touch casting fire into drops hanging from leaf and vine, bearing whispers of verdant life hidden beneath the storm's former cloak. With this renewal comes an understanding. Part of the watchkeeper's task involves a delicate dance with the weather, interpreting its signs, taking heed of its lessons. You admire the architecture forged not just by hands but by tempests, their imprint lived in stone and in the very air you breathe. As the storm recedes, you feel a connection with those who have weathered such nights before you, an unbroken lineage fortified against both natural and man-made adversities. The tower remains a symbol of endurance, a sentinel outlasted by neither gale nor shadow. The sun's gentle rise transforms the scene, colors softened yet vibrant in the morning glow. A world reborn begins its morning rites, shaking off the nocturnal embrace cast in stone and swelling air. Staring out from the heights, you witness the land's familiar visage emerge, sculpted anew beneath the sky's tender light. Ahead lies another day, its promise written in the clear blue vault above a cycle continuing, driven by time's steady hand, its details crafted by the tick of existence that simply endures. Within you lies the peace of understanding. Every storm-born echoes backward into your night's stewardship, and with it comes that knowledge everlasting and ephemeral that amidst the wild beauty of life's own storms, past and present, unites each heartbeat in assurance beneath the sky's enduring embrace. As the night advances, the tower stands as a bastion, not only against the physical elements, but also as a stage for human interaction. Within these walls, the complexities of social dynamics unfold a tapestry of camaraderie, tension, and the subtle dance of relationships formed under conditions of stress and isolation. In this ancient structure, the personalities entwined in Vigil create a microcosm that mirrors the broader fabric of medieval life. Serving alongside fellow watchkeepers, you find that the shared duty of tending to the tower offers both companionship and a potential breeding ground for friction. As with the turning of a medieval cogwheel, each individual is a vital component in the machine of watchfulness. The balance between isolation and sociability forms the crux of nightly interactions, and it is within these interactions that human nature often reveals itself most clearly. Consider the communal atmosphere fostered by stories shared over meals or during lapidary moments between shifts. Tales of past watches, embellished with harmless hyperbole, paint vivid tableaux in the dim light, a chance for seasoned veterans to weave tales of valor and humor into the fabric of night, their laughter a balm against the encroaching silence. The camaraderie, bolstered by shared experience, becomes the thread that unites disparate souls under the same starlit roof. Yet, the tower is also a cauldron where tensions may simmer. The isolation, the relentless cycle of duty, and the keen edge of fatigue constrain even the best of friendships and test the temper of colleagues. A misinterpreted word or slight can ignite tempers and stir old grievances. A frequent jest among watchmen who must navigate these tricky waters. Here, patience isn't a virtue, it's a necessity. In such an environment, where personal space is limited and the weight of duty presses heavily, small grievances might easily fester. Just as spring's zephyr departs winter's clutches, reconciliations often occur with the dawn's first light, tempers cooled by the night air, any harsh words softened under the forgiving horizon. The interplay of these social dynamics carries deeper implications, resonating beyond immediate interactions. For in the crucible of shared experience, mutual respect and understanding often take root, growing even through adversity. It is a practice of patience and perspective, where every act of tolerance and every choice toward understanding serves to bind the watchman as a steadfast unit. Historians still argue over the exact latitude of camaraderie and tension within such isolated outposts. Were they places of profound unity forged by adversity, or more akin to pressure valves, with hidden tensions peeking through cracks in the walls? Whatever the reality, these social dynamics shaped those who watched and formed an integral part of survival. Recognize within this web of interaction The value of diversions shared a game of dice to break the monotony. A mended boot from one hand graciously accepted by another without need for recompense. The simple acts of human kindness and camaraderie pierce through the persistent shadow, lightening the mental load of knowing that despite the night's merciless stretch, you are indeed not alone. Within these moments of bond, the tower transforms into a living entity, eternal in its quiet resilience, but alive with the laughter and whispers of those who dwell within. It becomes a community's heart, a crucible for unity, despite the unpredictable variables swaying outside. As dawn threads its silken light through the tower's stones, the tensions and triumphs of the night wane with the shadows, every dispute and anecdote receding into memory. The social dynamic shifts once more, a new dance set to unfold beneath the morning sky. Yet it is a testament to the strength born from shared endeavor, the balance of discord and harmony played out night after night within these hallowed walls. In the calm of daylight's grace, you stand shoulder to shoulder with your companions, each tracing the path of friendship or resolve that shaped the night, a promise renewed with each dawn. As the world awakens to another day, you draw upon the clarity of understanding and respect etched into the Watchtower's essence, a fellowship crafted amid night's watch, fortified against time's onward march. Here lies the tapestry of companionship, woven tight in continuity with silent companionship, aware of life's serendipitous undertones, glinting quietly under nature's majestic glare. As the quiet night envelops the medieval watchtower, the shroud of darkness seems to whisper tales woven with cultural beliefs and superstitions, a fabric stretching far beyond the physical realm, influencing the thoughts and actions of those who stand watch beneath its embrace. In an age where the mystical and the mundane are intricately intertwined, a watchkeeper's duties often extend beyond the mere observation of the visible. Every creak and groan of the tower's ancient stones, the subtle sigh of the breeze, the rustle of leaves carries with it hints of tales passed down through generations. These myths and stories serve not only as entertainment during long vigils, but also as guiding principles that shape how watchers interpret the world. The tower is a stage where legends come alive, dancing in the flicker of torchlight and casting shadows that seem to take on lives of their own. It is within this confluence of myth and duty that belief shapes behavior, whether it's a shared story of a ghostly figure who wanders the battlements or the protective spells believed to be woven into the tapestries hung upon fortress walls. These cultural artifacts influence every aspect of the watch. Stories of enchanted swords, fairies that steer travelers astray, or omens hinted at in animal calls fluctuate within their minds, reinforcing a collective identity that transcends mere duty. Among the watch, a teasing jest might ricochet about. His eyes are wide because he's seen the banshee first, a nod to the blend of fear and humor woven into routines. Light cracks of jokes mix with solemn nods at the realities of belief, the delicate balance between earnest credence and light-hearted camaraderie. The intersection between faith and tradition finds resonance within the heart of the tower. Rituals as old as the stones themselves are quietly observed. The scattering of salt near a doorway, a whispered prayer that strengthens resolve. Heirloom amulets tucked beneath tunics, worn as shields against unkind fate. Even the weather, its fierce unpredictability, is attributed to capricious spirits rather than mere climactic forces. Historians still warily debate the extent to which superstition governed daily medieval life, whether these founded beliefs were components of sagacity or merely flights of fancy, injected with cultural resonance. Yet, within this tower, where the line between supernatural watchfulness and stone-solid realism blurs, what endures is the profound impact of belief, a psychological tool as potent as any sword. Nature's phenomena became portents, doves and ravens bearing gentle omens, sending whispers against the constant cycle of time. But beyond the philosophic severity born in creeds unconsciously adopted, each watch sensed how faith kindled the strength needed to navigate the intense corridors of darkness's inner court. Consider moments where the spider's weave upon wooden spires may be met not with disdain but reverence, a sign of good fortune or a spell harnessed in such weaving. With each narrative sustained within stone walls, sewn into fabric and fire, The heart of the tower beats with as much mystery and magic as determined stoicism. For those vigilant in their watch, the culture of belief roots their presence into certainty, a girding force against unknown uncertainties, calming the ever-quaking soul with tales of heroes and villains, shadows and luminous heralds. In this cycle, belief stands eternal sentinel, unerring in its ability to bind heart to purpose throughout Vigil's span. As the night deepens and transforms its secrets into the gentle caress of dawn, you realize these stories and superstitions possess a role beyond mere folklore. They are threads interwoven with courage in your watch, fortifying your resolve against doubts and despair. The sunrise reveals the resilience that arises from having faith, the inspiration drawn from passage's shadow into light. With dawn's touch spreading through the stone tapestry, you stand on the cusp between legend and reality. This enduring dialogue between the known and the mysterious strengthens clarity and purpose within. The supernatural does not merely cohabit within memory. Rather, it trickles through veins, sustaining each faithful breath cast at time's visage. In the silence before morning breaks fully, you acknowledge your role, shaped by ancient beliefs, fortified by enduring courage, a witness to history's silent voices, resting comfortingly within this enchanted edifice. You awaken to the promise that now is simply another chapter in a story sculpted by time and timeless belief, where legend's quiet presence reflects upon whispers spun gently past. Here, dawn heralds now, courageous beneath surety of vision aligned along threefold truths: delight, devotion, and daybreak woven against the tower's eternal watch. As the eternal night stretches its fingers over the Watchtower, you ponder the myths and realities that envelop the role you inhabit. These paradoxes forge a fascinating dichotomy between the romanticized image of the medieval century and the sometimes stark and tedious truth of life atop these formidable structures. The age-old allure of the Watchtower, with its tales of gallantry and legend, often overshadows the raw realities lived within its walls. The popular perception of watchkeeping is cloaked in dramatic imagery. Epic ballads and stories depict knights and sentinels as noble figures standing resolutely against the encroaching night, their silhouettes noble and stalwart against moonlit skies. It is an image lovingly crafted and perpetuated through generations, feeding the imagination with lofty ideals of honor and vigilance. But beneath this idealized illusion lies a tapestry woven with threads of mundane challenges, endurance, and survival. These tales often ignore the bone-chilling cold, the relentless isolation, and the fatigue that seeps deeply into the marrow of watchkeepers. It's hard to capture the numbing repetition of the watch, the solitude unbroken by echoing silence, and the rhythmic dance between darkness, shadow, and the continual quest for warmth. The contrast is not lost on you as you stand guard, embracing the solitude. Modern visitors, sweeping through the gates of time, might jest with a smile, "Ah, the glamour of standing still nightly valiance in all its sleepy splendor." Such humor exposes the deep chasm between dreamy myth and gritty reality, highlighting how perspective shapes perception. As it happens, historians continually debate the authenticity and variance in depictions of medieval watchful life, questioning whether subjects of tale are based more on law's generosity than on chronicles preserved by unsung historians of stone and ink. Yet, amidst exaggerations and simplifications, the Watchtower remains a vital entry in the annals of history, a symbol steadfast against the test of time, quietly securing the night. The true story you inhabit entwines gallantry with human weariness, a mixture of dedication with human imperfection. This duality neither diminishes the role's nobility nor cloisters its necessity within illusions of grandeur. It's within honest realization balanced against poetic embellishment that the measure of a watchkeeper's heart is genuinely gauged. Within these stones, whispers of longing press against the stark realism of night lived fully present. The lingering echoes reverberate through each watchkeeper who braved nights for safety's pursuit, inviting reflection on individuals' courage bundled in earnest vulnerability amidst strictures unforgiving. Revelations surface beyond melody's arc, aligned with noble souls wrapped tightly against Zephyr's vocal embrace. What stands in this broad light is the truth that every watch is its own story, each one breathing life into the towering heights of stone. With every cycle, the sweep of time enshrines glories deserved and untold. A mantle acknowledging not merely illusory exploits, but the quieter heroism etched into shadows, vigilance birthed from persistence. As the stars begin to fade, tugging the night's curtain aside to reveal the tender hues of dawn, you grasp the lesson in these contrasting narratives. While you're heir to a tradition of myth, your heart beats within truth's steady cadence. This story, rich in shadow and substance alike, becomes an understanding. Warriors came not just from songbooks, but are inscribed in blood and dreams against dawn's declaration. You stand, finally, bathed in dawn's quiet affirmation, a living testament to all this tower, legendary and very tangible, represents. Honor lies found not in mythical retellings, but in the footfall placed tenaciously upon this earthly stage, routed firmly, as sunrise breaks anew upon legacy rooted in both promise and passage. Your watch, a seamless loop traversed between eras, turns proudly within timelessness, whilst under shared sky, passion draped proudly across ageless tale tethered still. As the first light of dawn begins to illuminate the medieval watchtower, an opportunity unfolds to reflect on the enduring legacy of these ancient structures. The watchtower is more than just a collection of stone and mortar. It's a monument to human ingenuity and an emblem of security, shaping both history and the future in profound, though sometimes subtle, ways. Its towering silhouette stands as a testament to the evolution of society's needs and the continuous quest for safety in an unpredictable world. From their earliest inception, watchtowers served multifaceted roles: outposts of defense, observation posts for impending threats, and symbols of authority. They were instrumental during times of conflict, their presence a deterrent to potential invaders, signaling that a vigilant eye watched over the land. In one perspective, the watchtower can be seen as an early form of home security, a precursor to modern systems designed to protect and monitor. But as society advanced, the role of the watchtower expanded its significance beyond mere warfare. Their beacons guided travelers, marking safe havens where weary souls might rest. Further, they became waypoints in the vast medieval landscape, facilitating communication between isolated communities in an era when information was precious and slowly traversed Earth's curvature. This stone sentinel, erected through sweat and resilience, brought together communities, ensuring a continuous link between them in troubled times. As technology flourished and cities grew, the watchtower's silhouette gradually receded from battlefields to cultural memory, yet its principles endured. They became a symbol captured in architecture, inspiring designs of towers not only for defense but also for celebration, innovation, and civic pride. The spires of cathedrals, the minarets of mosques, and the burgeoning skyscrapers against modern skylines. In educational contexts, historians ponder the lessons left by these sentinels, becoming case studies in architectural design, adaptations to geographical needs, and cultural integration. Watchtowers offer a narrative of collaboration, shared goals, and the blending of ideas, each stone a part of a larger story that includes varied contributions from architects, masons, sentries, and society at large. Humor often finds its place here. One might chuckle at modern analogues, like neighborhood watch volunteers, dubbed digital watchtower keepers, complete with security cameras and motion sensors. This quip easily bridges past with present while embracing laughter as a tool of unity and continuity across ages. You realize that while the watchtower itself may no longer serve its original purpose, its legacy has left an indelible mark on the human pursuit of safety, community, and connection. Through stone and time, its influence remains, alive in the vestiges of architecture, in the language of modern engineering, and in systems aimed at nurturing peace and vigilance toward potential tribulations. As sunlight warms the stones beneath your feet, the reality and significance of your vigil crystallize. You are not merely a piece of ancient history, but part of an evolving continuum, a contributor at the threshold of both yesteryear's steadfast promises and tomorrow's guarded hopes. In these moments of reflection, you recognize the tradition that today's guardians, those who stand, watch over digital landscapes, or under the protection of modern infrastructure, have inherited. The principles remain the same: vigilance, community, and the unwavering bond that keeps darkness at bay. The Watchtower, once a bastion overlooking the world, now invites fresh understanding through its shadow, a mark of human perseverance spread wide over time. Each breeze carries reflections of ongoing rhythms, the sculpted whispers of stone tempered by today's fleet-footed zeitgeist, reflecting the unyielding pursuit of security while highlighting interconnected threads from antiquity's cradle to present's doorstep. As the sun rises on your watch, you recognize this legacy lives not only in stone, but also within every heart that listens and learns, standing sentinel against the endless night, sustained by the lighthouse roof traced across time's tender grasp. With every heartbeat, the Watchtower continues its eternal vigil, transforming into an icon that bridges eras with elegance and wisdom, informed by tales wrought as stories booth beneath skies newly dawnbound. With dawn caressing the horizon, the medieval Watchtower transforms, unveiling its legacy under the tender touch of morning light. The chill of the night now recedes, and in its place, a gentle warmth envelops you, breathing life into fatigued limbs and reinvigorating a spirit tempered by vigil. This is the culmination of your night's journey, a moment of introspection that invites reflection and revelation. You stand as a thread woven into the expansive tapestry of time, part of an unbroken lineage stretching back to those ancients who first dared to climb these heights. Each stone that forms the tower, each crack and weathered surface, tells a story of countless lives intertwined through nights much like this one. The Watchtower's legacy, etched into its very structure, is alive with memory, a living testament to the resilience and determination that span the centuries. As you lower your gaze from the horizon, there remains a profound melancholy in acknowledging that the Watchtower is both a remnant and a promise, a relic of a world less complicated, and a beacon guiding us from the complexities of today into the unknowns of tomorrow. These stones, silent yet speaking, offer continuity between epochs within a world forever in flux, reminding us that some principles remain constant. The night reveals its subtle wisdom, offering lessons steeped in history and humanity's enduring quest for security and connection. You've been a part of something vastly larger than yourself, a watch, a vigil, a duty repeated through time's turn, blending both myth and reality into a singular, profound truth. With the sun's ascent, a deep sense of satisfaction settles in. The Watchtower is not merely an object of stone and timber, it is a keeper of stories, curator of traditions, and an anchor to which we ground our understanding of endurance and community. Its legacy weaves through modern embodiments of watchfulness, security cameras vigilant against unseen threats, neighborhood watches silently guiding us towards safety. These are the echoes of the Watchtower etched indelibly into the annals of time. As daylight wholly embraces the landscape, you find peace in the realization that every moment spent atop this tower through rain, wind, and quiet solitude has contributed something vital to your understanding of what it means to endure, to protect, and to hold watch over the margins of night's enfolding cloak. Embrace this legacy and carry its lessons forward into days where the vigil extends toward new horizons, shaped by technology and modernity's promises. Here resides a timeless reassurance. Every watch remains significant, every guardian crucial, as it has been since the first stone was set by hands, now long vanished into history's shadows. In closing your watch, you descend from the battlements, newly invigorated by an appreciation of your place within this continuum. Relinquishing your place to the incoming watchkeeper, you leave behind the night's whispered stories, now absorbed into your own narrative. The Watchtower remains, a steadfast sentinel in a world that will continue to turn beneath its gaze. As you step into the embrace of daylight, the echoes of your night blend seamlessly into the ongoing melody of history, a reminder that in medieval times, survival was a luxury, and today, its lessons make every dawn a precious gift. Sweet dreams.